guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Manisha and thank you for clicking on this video. So I'm so excited. So for years I've been watching people do this mid-year book freakout tag and now I get to do it. I'm so excited. This channel has been so fun, honestly, to have. And so yeah, so I got a little dranky drank and I'm gonna answer some questions. So this year I think has been like my best reading year so far, and honestly I think it's just because I have not much going on really. So yeah, this year I read 31 books and it's only June. Pretty proud of myself. Did I claw my way out of a reading slump last month? Yes, but I still think kind of slayed, kind of bodied how many books I'm reading. I'm really proud. And my longest reading streaks, I'm getting all of my stats from Storygraph, and you can set streaks on it, and my longest streak is 33 days, and that has never happened to me where I'm like reading so like consistently, and I know it's only like a month, but like my like goal for each day to like reach that streak is I think 10 pages, so not that high, but like for some reason previous to this my longest streak was like 19 days. I don't know, I'm happy. I think did pretty good. And then my page breakdown is I've read 12,236 pages and 72.33 hours. I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt though, because for a lot of books, especially ebooks, I'll read them and listen to them at the same time. If I get like the audiobook through Libby and then I just happen to have the ebook, I'll just kind of alternate between them. So tiny grain of salt required, but I'm pretty proud. That's pretty good. And my average rating has been a 3.94, which kind of adds up. I've been reading a lot of 4-star reads, and then I had like a few 5 stars in the last few months, but it's pretty good, I think. And my main genre has been romance. I've read 20 romances, and then followed by 12 fantasy. And my most read author, Abby Jimenez. You know what? Love that for me. Abby Jimenez has like literally taken over my life. She's such an amazing author. I'm so happy I discovered her. My treasure from 2024 is Abby Jimenez and her books. Okay, so now I'm gonna jump into the questions and I'm pretty excited. As I've already mentioned like 12 million times, but I am excited. So the first question is the best book you've read this year. And I'm gonna be honest, a lot of my 5-star reads this year have been rereads. And so, you know, I'm not gonna include those, but I read Part of Your World 2 months ago, and they're just, the way that just hit me, I was just like, it's so cute. They're just so nice to each other. They're just, I don't know, it was just like such a well done way of showing two worlds just coming together and both being so different but equally valuable to the other. It was so good. Well, it got 5 stars, so obviously I thought incredible writing, incredible characters, storyline. It was great. The next question is the best sequel you've read this year, and I think I have to say Into the Dark. So I read that in February when it came out, and I'm gonna be honest, Magnolia Parks, the series, I really like it, but it's never really like hit super hard. But I feel like Into the Dark, especially with the content of that book, I just feel like the author did such a good job. Jessa Hastings put in so much care into either research or literally laying bare her experience with the large subject matter in that book. It was so phenomenally done. That was hands down the best sequel. And a new release that I haven't read but want to. I think I have to say this lovely book right here. I picked this up like when it came out, and then I kind of was humming and hawing my way through it. And for context, the entire Boys of Tommen series is a like soul series. Like they're my 6 out of 10 or 6 out of 5 series. But then this was like, Taming 7 was just not hitting me the way I wanted it to. And so I kind of put it down. But I do want to get into it. I think I'm going to reread books 3 and 4, which follow Joey, and then I'll get into Gibbsy's book after that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna just give it the benefit of the doubt without going into it with expectations that it's gonna be as profound and as like moving for me as the first 4 books are. Because I think that's holding me back from reading it. The next question is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I think I have to say Reckless, which is kind of a basic answer because I think most people that read Powerless by Lauren Roberts loved it, but I'm so excited. Like, I feel like Powerless was just, I don't know, it was just one of those books where, like, I just didn't go in expecting something, like, so simple to be so, like, entertaining. Like, it was just, like, eating candy. Like, Powerless was just, it wasn't, like, super complex, but I loved it. I think the kind of heart of Powerless in the series lies in the characters and how well they're constructed. And just the way that they interact with each other is just so top tier. So I'm so excited for Reckless, and it's literally coming out, I think, 2nd of July, if I'm not mistaken. So that's very soon. I'm hyped. The biggest surprise of this year, I have to say, was Ninth House, which was a reread from me. I read it in 2020 when it first came out, and I think I rated it like 4 stars. And then I reread it this year because I wanted to read Hellbent, and I didn't really quite remember what had happened in the first book. And I just like fell in love with that book. I feel like Alex is created so well. She actually feels like a real person, and that is not a feeling. I don't think I've ever gotten that feeling with a character. She is just such a good, well-constructed character. The plot is so real. You just feel for literally every single character in the book. Whether it's a side character or a main character, you just want them to thrive and succeed and get out of whatever horrible circumstance they're in. And it's just so captivating. And it was like a 5-star read that was like so surprising for me because I was like, oh, I've already read it. My ratings are usually pretty consistent. And then I was like blown out of the water. So yeah, I really loved Ninth House, and that was definitely a surprise. My favorite new author. So I think I have to give that to Abby Jimenez because, as I said, she's literally my like gem of this year. She's just put something in those books. Like Yours Truly and Part of Your World are just such top tier books. I love it. Love it. I'll definitely be reading whatever she puts out. I have read, what was the 3rd book that had just come out? Just for the Summer. I didn't love that as much, but I think it's also because I went in with such high expectations because I had just come off a 4.75 for Yours Truly and a 5-star for Part of Your World. So, and then I immediately went into Just for the Summer because the book just happened to come out like very close to when I just finished the first 2. So I didn't rate it as high, but it was still rated fairly high enough that I would continue with this author. It didn't completely put me off her. So she's definitely my favorite new author. A book that made you cry. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like the only books that really make me cry are The Boys of Tommen. Books don't usually make me feel like very hyper emotions. Like, it's not very easy for me to like read something and feel emotional about it. But I think I would have to say, like, Binding and Keeping 13, those usually make me cry because it's a lot. It's a lot going on. The next question is a book that made you happy. And again, like I said, I'm not really like someone that feels a lot of emotions, but when I was reading Powerless by Lauren Roberts, the giggles I was giggling an ungodly amount. Like, Kai Azar just knows how to say things. He's so smooth with it. The next question is the most beautiful book you've bought/received this year. But I'm going to change this question a little bit. So I'm going to change it to the most beautiful book I've read this year. And then I'll change it to the most beautiful in terms of content that I've read. And I haven't finished this book, but I'm reading it right now, and I think the cover is just so beautiful. It's The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi, and I mean, just look at this cover. Just look at it. It's literally gorgeous. This is just like my kind of like art where it's like busy and there's a lot of things happening. And the color palette's so dark. It's so nice. It's so pretty. I just love it. And I think especially when it first came out, it has like, I think they're called end pages, and they were like full color. They're so pretty. It's so pretty. In terms of content, I think the most beautiful book I've read was Yours Truly, because just the sheer understanding and just consideration for one another the characters show for each other without making the other feel like a burden, just completely just normally just acting like it's completely normal and just meeting the other where they are was so beautiful. Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Those characters were just, they were just the epitome of like meeting you where you are and just loving you. No words. That was just so beautiful. And then I also wanted to talk about the books that I want to read by the end of the year. So that is like the last question of the tag. So, oh my gosh, completing my second tag on this channel. So the first book I want to read is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. I, in February, read The 7-Year Slip, and the way that Ashley Poston just captured the way that falling in love feels like so well in that book. I'm so excited to read this book because this is literally about a woman falling into, I believe it's a romance book, and she just ends up being transported into it. And if you like anime, I am an isekai girly. I love it to death. So this sounds so perfect. I'm excited. The next book, of course, like I mentioned, I do want to read Taming 7 before the end of the year. I'm hoping to finish an entire reread of the series by the end of the year, ideally. So, that. Also, of course, Reckless. Gotta say Reckless. We've already gone through the reasons why. And then I want to read the Tower of Babel series. So I have read the first two. I loved the second book. I was so excited to jump into the last two books. I still haven't done it. I don't know why. I'm really not sure, because the way that the second book was and the way the second book ended, I have no idea what the holdup is. Of course, I have to say Play Along by Liz Tomford. And hear me out. I never read the first book. Second book, I read the first few chapters and DNF'd it because it wasn't, I don't know, I didn't like it. And then the third book, I randomly picked it up, and it is just so good. It was so good. And at first I was like, I don't really know if I want a baseball romance. Like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't know. But it was such a surprise. I think that's also why I just loved it so much, because I didn't go in with very high expectations, because I had not had like an amazing experience with this author previously. So surprised. And I loved it. It was so good, so cute. And I just have a weakness for single dad trope. I'm sorry. I really do. If it's done well, I'm gonna read the book. I'm sorry. I just love single dad trope. I think it's elite. And then my next book I'm excited for is, and I'm going to read by the end of the year, is Daydream by Hannah Grace. So I just finished reading Icebreaker last month, and then I am planning to do a Wildfire reread right before Daydream comes out. And oh my gosh, rereading Icebreaker, I just forgot how much Henry is such an amazing character. I just love him. He's so like baby girl. I'm so excited. I'm so beyond excited, because I know the blasphemy I'm about to say, but I forgot who Henry was until I reread Icebreaker, I'm like 100 times more excited now that I remember who Henry is, and I've like read all the interactions like freshly now, because Henry's obviously not really in the second book, so I kind of just, and it just like left my brain. And then of course I have to finish The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi, the cover, but also just, I don't know what happened. I had this book on Libby, and then I pushed it until the last, like, I had maybe 3 days, 4 days, and then I zipped through the first 20%, and I was, like, so regretful because people were waiting behind me, so I couldn't renew the loan. Now I have to just wait. But this was just so immediately captivating, and I should have known because I loved the City of Brass, like, series. I don't know if that's I think it's called the David Bat trilogy, but that entire series was just so, like, you're just immediately drawn in. She's just such a master at creating worlds. It's not very hard to fall into the world. You're kind of immediately comfortable, and so that makes it so accessible to just start reading it. And her worlds are pretty, like, rich and complex, so, like, what a skill, honestly. And then the last book, or books, I want to finish before the end of the year are the Stormlight Archive. So I read the first book in like 2018, rated it 5 stars, and then I never picked up any of the other books. And it's because they're so big, they're just so daunting, and I know it's going to take me like so long to read them. But they're just so good. And I don't know what the holdup is. Like, I've gotten the audiobook before, and then I like burned through it, and then I'm like, no, I want to read it physically because I have the books physically. And then I just don't, because I'm like, oh, what a chonker. It's going to take me forever to get through this. But yes. And then the 5th book, which I believe concludes the first arc of the series, is coming out in December. So am I kind of setting an unreasonable goal right now? Maybe. But I do want to finish it before Wind and Truth comes out. I think it's called Wind and Truth. But yeah. Those are my goals. We shall see if I get there. Okay, so before I completely wrap this tag up, I just want to do a little like check-in on my reading goals. So at the beginning of the year, I set reading goals because, you know, I saw everyone else doing it and I'm a follower. So I'm gonna go through and do a little check-in. Feel free to like just, you know, click away. But I just wanted to record it. I think it's fun, and I just feel like reevaluating your goals and with a little bit of regularity, you know, helps you stay on track. So I just want to talk about it. So my reading goal in terms of books was 50. So I'm at 31 right now, so I'm on track as long as another reading slump doesn't take me out. I think we'll be okay. And then I also wanted to have more of like a expand my reading type goal. Oh, whoops. I don't even have these written down. 1 second. Okay. So, my reading goal was to read 2 horror, 2 historical fiction, 2 magical realism, 1 self-help, 1 science and tech book, and 1 classic. So, I personally have not made some progress on some of these, but have made some pretty decent progress on others. So I have actually finished and crossed off both of my horrors. So I read Ninth House is considered a horror. So I read Ninth House and Hellbent. And then I also recently read Fragile Animals by Genevieve Yeager. So hit those goals. Amazing. And then for historical fiction, have not hit anything yet. So Amina al-Sirafi is considered a historical fiction, so I will be crossing one off. But if you have any recommendations for this, let me know. I think right now I'm between All the Light We Cannot See and Demon Copperfield. So if you have any opinions, let me know below. So for magical realism, I have read 1 book. So I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and then I tried to read the Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I just could not fall into that, guys. It was just the narrative voice was just so dry. And I feel like such interesting things were happening. And I understand that that's her character. Like, she is a boring girly. But I just don't want to read about it. Like, so, no. DNF'd it. I was either going to give it like a 1 or 2 or just moving on to another book. So I just moved on. I plan for my second magical realism book to read Piranesi. So in maybe September, whenever, maybe it was not September, it was farther back than that. But whenever Yellowface came out, I went to go to a book event for that, and R.F. Kuang came and spoke, and she was talking about how she really loved Piranesi. And I'm highly influenceable, and I thought, I'm going to read that book too, because if the Queen R.F. Kuang can read it and love it, hopefully I can at least read it, if not love it. So yeah, I hope I adore it. But also, if you have like any really good magical realism recommendations, let me know. I'm not really like super in tune with magical realism as a genre. So if there's any like hidden gems, like let me know. The one self-help and one science and tech book, haven't touched that yet. I will get to it. It just hasn't happened yet. I think my 2 books that I have right now are The Perfectionist, and it's about like precision engineering. And then I have Accessory to War, and then I think that's talking about like the military and space coming together. Something of that nature. It's talking about that. And then for self-help, I am going to read Atomic Habits. This list was kind of made in a way for me to kind of get rid of some of my TBR, but it has not worked yet. I think I've read like all new books for this, so like really need to hone in on that science and tech and self-help to kind of eliminate some things from my TBR. And the last book the last category I want to fill was a classic, and this was also made to get rid of some books on my TBR, so I wanted to read Frankenstein. So I have 2 classics on my shelf. I read the other one, is Dorian Gray. And Frankenstein I'm planning to read closer to October because I want the spooky vibes. So it'll happen eventually. So I actually think I'm doing pretty well on my reading goals. I am slowly but surely getting through them. I don't know if that was 100% intentional, but you know what's happening. Okay, well, that's it for the mid-year freakout tag and little mid-year book check-in. I'd love to know if you've made any goals for the second half of 2024, how your goals from the first half of 2024 have gone. Literally, let me know if you found a gem of a book that you think I would enjoy or that you've enjoyed and just want more people to read and discuss. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!